Continuing with Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 5 by Rick Riordan, The Last Olympian. This is Chapter 10, I Buy Some New Friends. Mrs. O'Leary was the only one happy about the sleeping city. We found her pigging out on an overturned hot dog stand while the owner was curled up on the sidewalk, sucking his thumb. Argus was waiting for us with his 100 eyes wide open. He didn't say anything. He never does. I guess that's because he supposedly has an eyeball on his tongue, but his face made it clear he was freaking out. I told him what we'd learned in Olympus and how the gods would not be riding to the rescue. Argus rolled his eyes in disgust, which looked pretty psychedelic since it made his whole body swirl. You'd better get back to camp, I told him. Guard it as best you can. He pointed at me and raised his eyebrow quizzically. I'm staying, I said. Argus nodded, like this answer satisfied him. He looked at Annabeth and drew a circle in the air with his finger. Yes, Annabeth agreed. I think it's time. For what? I asked. Argus rummaged around the back of his van. He brought out a bronze shield and passed it to Annabeth. It looked pretty much standard issue, the same kind of round shield we always used in Capture the Flag. But when Annabeth set it on the ground, the reflection on the polished metal changed from sky and buildings to the Statue of Liberty, which wasn't anywhere close to us. Whoa, I said, it's a video shield? One of Daedalus's ideas, Annabeth said. I had Beckendorf make this before. She glanced at Selena. Anyway, the shield bends light and moonlight from anywhere in the world to create a reflection. You can literally see any target under the sun or moon, as long as natural light is touching it. Look, we crowded around as Annabeth concentrated. The image zoomed and spun at first, so I got motion sickness just watching it. We were in the Central Park Zoo, then zooming down East 60th, past Bloomingdale's, then turning onto 3rd Avenue. Whoa, Carnerstole said. Back up. Zoom in right there. What? Annabeth said nervously. You see invaders? No, right there. Dylan's candy bar. Connor grinned at his brother. Dude, it's open and everyone is asleep. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Connor, Katie Gardner scolded. She sounded like her mother, Demeter. This is serious. You're not going to loot a candy store in the middle of a war. Sorry, Connor muttered, but he didn't sound very ashamed. Annabeth passed her hand in front of the shield, and another scene popped up. FDR Drive, looking across the river at Lighthouse Park. This will let us see what's going on across the city, she said. Thank you, Argus. Hopefully, we'll see you back at camp someday. Argus grunted. He gave me a look that clearly meant good luck. You'll need it. Then climbed into his van. He and his 2 harpy drivers swerved away, weaving in around clusters of idle cars and littered the road. I whistled for Mrs. O'Leary, and she came bounding over. Hey, girl, I said, you remember Grover, the satyr we met in the park? Woof! I hope that meant sure I do, and not, do you have any more hot dogs? I need you to find him. I said, make sure he's still awake. We're going to need his help. You got that? Find Grover. Mrs. O'Leary gave me a sloppy, wet kiss, which seemed kind of unnecessary. Then she raced off north. Pollux crouched next to a sleeping policeman. I don't get it. Why didn't we fall asleep too? Why just the mortals? This is a huge spell, Selena Beauregard said. The bigger the spell, the easier it is to resist. If you want to sleep millions of mortals, you've got to cast a very thin layer of magic. Sleeping demigods is much harder. I stared at her. When did you learn so much about magic? Selena blushed. I don't spend all my time on my wardrobe. Percy, Annabeth called. She was still looking at the shield. You better see this. The bronze image showed Long Island Sound near LaGuardia. A fleet of a dozen speedboats raced through the dark water toward Manhattan. Each boat was packed with demigods in full Greek armor. At the back of the lead boat, a purple banner, blazoned with a black scythe, flapped in the night wind. I'd never seen that design before, but it wasn't hard to figure out. It was the battle flag of Kronos. Scan the perimeter of the island, I said. Quick. Annabeth shifted the scene south to the harbor. A Staten Island ferry was plowing through the waves near Ellis Island. The deck was crowded with Dryache and a whole pack of hellhounds. Swimming in front of the ship was a pod of marine mammals. At first, I thought they were dolphins. Then I saw their dog-like faces and swords strapped to their waists, and I realized they were talakeens, sea demons. The scene shifted again. The Jersey Shore, right at the entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel. 100 assorted monsters were moving or marching past the lanes of stopped traffic. Giants with clubs, rogue cyclopses, a few fire-spitting dragons, and just to rub it in, a World War II era Sherman tank pushing cars out of the way as it rumbled into the tunnel. What's happening with the mortals outside Manhattan? I said. It's is the whole state asleep? Annabeth frowned. I don't think so. It's strange. As far as I can tell from these pictures, Manhattan is totally asleep. Then there's like 50-mile radius around the island where time is running really, really slow. The closer you get to Manhattan, the slower it is. She showed me another scene, a New Jersey highway. It was Saturday evening, so the traffic wasn't bad, as it might have been on a weekday. The drivers looked awake, but the cars were moving about 1 mile per hour. Birds flew overhead in slow motion. Kronos, I said. He's slowing time. The Kate might be helping, Katie Gardner said. Look how the cars are veering away from the Manhattan exits, like they're getting a subconscious message to turn back. I don't know, Annabeth sounded really frustrated. She hated not knowing, but somehow they've surrounded Manhattan in layers of magic. The outside world might not even realize something is wrong. Any mortals coming toward Manhattan will slow down so much they won't know what's happening. Like flies in amber? Jake Mason murmured. Annabeth nodded. We shouldn't expect any help coming in. I turned to my friends. They looked stunned and scared, and I couldn't blame them. The shield had shown us the last 300 enemies, shown us at least 300 enemies on the way. There were 40 of us, and we were alone. All right, I said. We're going to hold Manhattan. Selena tugged at her armor. Percy, Manhattan is huge. We're going to hold it, I said. We have to. He's right, Annabeth said. The gods of the wind should keep Kronos' forces away from Olympus by air. So he'll try to a ground assault. So we have to cut off the entrances to the island. They have boats, Michael, you pointed out. An electric triangle bent down my back. Suddenly I understood Athena's advice. Remember the rivers. I'll take care of the boats, I said. Michael frowned. How? Just leave it to me, I said. We need to guard the bridges and the tunnels. Let's assume they'll try a midtown or downtown assault, at least on their first try. That would be the most direct way to the Empire State Building. Michael, take Apollo cabin to the Williamsburg Bridge. Katie, Demeter cabin takes the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. Grow thorn bushes, poison ivy in the tunnel, whatever you have to do, but keep them out of there. Connor, take half of Hermes' cabin and cover the Manhattan Bridge. Travis, you take the other half and cover the Brooklyn Bridge. And no stopping for looting or pillaging. Ah, the whole Hermes cabin complained. Selena, take the Aphrodite crew to the Queens Midtown Tunnel. On my gods, one of her sisters said, Fifth Avenue is so on our way. We could accessorize and monsters like like totally hate the smell of Givenchy. No delays, I said. Well, the perfume thing, if you think it'll work. 6 Aphrodite girls kissed me on the cheek in excitement. All right, enough. I closed my eyes, trying to think of what I'd forgotten. The Holland Tunnel. Jake, take the Hephaestus cabin there. Use Greek fire, set traps, whatever you've got to do. He grinned. Gladly. We got a score to settle. For Beckendorf. The whole cabin roared in approval. The 59th Street Bridge, I said. Clarice. I faltered. Clarice wasn't there. The whole Aries cabin. Curse them! Was sitting back at camp. We'll take that, Annabeth stepped in, saving me from the embarrassing silence. She turned to her siblings. Malcolm, take the Athena cabin. Activate Plan 23 along the way, just like I showed you. Hold that position. You got it. I'll go with Percy, she said. We'll join you, and we'll go wherever we're needed. Somebody in the back of the group said, no detours, you two. There were some giggles, but I decided to let it pass. All right, I said. Keep in touch with cell phones. We don't have cell phones, Selena protested. I reached down, picked up some snoring lady's BlackBerry, and tossed it to Selena. You know, you do now. You all know Annabeth's number, right? If you need us, pick up the random phone and call us. Use it once, drop it, and then borrow another one if you have to. That'll make it harder for the monsters to zero in on you. Everyone grinned as they as the thought as though they liked this idea. Travis cleared his throat. If we really find a nice phone, no, you can't keep it, I said. Oh man, hold it, Percy, Jake Mason said. I forgot, you forgot the Lincoln Tunnel. I bit back a curse. He was right. A Sherman tank and 100 monsters were marching through the tunnel right now, and I'd positioned our forces everywhere else. Then a girl's voice came from across the street. How about you leave that to us? I'd never been happier to hear anyone in my life. A band of 30 adolescent girls crossed Fifth Avenue. They wore white shirts, silvery camouflage pants, and combat boots. They all had swords at their sides, quivers on their backs, and bows at the ready. A pack of white timber wolves milled around their feet, and many of the girls hunted hunting falcons on their arms. The girl in the lead had spiky black hair and a black leather jacket. She wore a silver circlet on her head like a princess tiara, which didn't match her skull earrings to her Death to Barbie t-shirt, showing a little Barbie doll with an arrow through its head. Thalia! Annabeth cried. The daughter of Zeus grinned. The hunters of Artemis reporting for duty. There were hugs and greetings all around, or at least Thalia was friendly. The other hunters didn't like being around campers, especially boys, but they didn't shoot any of us, which for them was a pretty warm welcome. Where have you been the last year? I asked Thalia. You've got like twice as many hunters now. She laughed. long story. I bet my adventures were more dangerous than yours, Jackson. Complete lie, I said. We'll see, she promised. After this is over, you, Annabeth, and me, cheeseburgers and fries at the hotel on West 57th. Le Parker Meridian, I said. You're on. And Thalia, thanks. She shrugged. Those monsters won't know what hit them. Hunters, move out. She slapped her silver bracelet and the shield Argus spiraled into full form. The golden head of Medusa molded in the center. So horrible, the campers all backed away. The hunters took off down the avenue, followed by their wolves and falcons, and I had the feeling the Lincoln Tunnel would be safe for now. Thank the gods, Annabeth said. If we don't blockade the rivers from those boats, guarding the bridges and tunnels will be pointless. You're right, I said. I looked at the campers, all of them, grim and determined. I tried not to feel like this was the last time I'd ever see all of them. You're the greatest heroes of this millennium, I told them. It doesn't matter how many monsters come at you, fight bravely, and we will win. I raised Riptide and shouted, for Olympus! And they shouted in response, and 40 voices echoed off the buildings of Midtown. For a moment, it sounded brave, but it died quickly in the silence of 10 million sleeping New Yorkers. Annabeth and I would have had our pick of cars. but they were all wedged bumper to bumper in bumper to bumper traffic. None of the engines were running, which was weird. It seemed the drivers had time to turn off their ignition before they got too sleepy. Or maybe Morpheus had had the power to put engines to sleep as well. Most of the drivers had apparently tried to pull to the curb when they felt themselves passing out, but still the streets were too clogged to navigate. Finally, we found an unconscious courier leaning against a brick wall, still straddling his red Vespa. We dragged him off the scooter and laid him on the sidewalk. Sorry, dude, I said. With any luck, I'd be able to bring his scooter back, and if I didn't, it would hardly matter because the city would be destroyed. I drove with Annabeth behind me, holding onto my waist. We zigzagged down Broadway with our engine buzzing through the eerie calm. The only sounds were occasional cell phones ringing, like they were calling out to each other, as if New York had turned into a giant electric aviary. Our progress was slow. Every so often, we'd come across pedestrians who'd fallen asleep right in front of a car, and we'd move them just to be safe. Once we stopped to extinguish a pretzel vendor's cart that had caught fire. A few minutes later, we had to rescue a baby carriage that was rolling aimlessly down the street. It turned out there was no baby in it, just somebody's sleeping poodle. So I figured we'd park it safely in a doorway and keep driving. We were passing Madison Square Park, and Annabeth said, "Pull over." I stopped in the middle of East 23rd. Annabeth jumped off and ran toward the park. By the time I caught up with her, she was staring at a bronze statue on a red marble pedestal. I'd probably passed a million times, but never looked at it. The dude was sitting in a chair with his legs crossed. He wore an old fashioned suit, Abraham Lincoln style, with a bow tie and long coattails and stuff. A bunch of bronze books were piled under his chair. He held a writing quill in one hand and a big metal sheet of parchment in the other. Why do we care about? I squinted at the name on the pedestal. William H. Seward, Annabeth corrected. He was a New York governor, minor demigod of Hebe, I think. But that's not important. It's the statue I care about. She climbed on the park bench and examined the base of the statue. Don't tell me he's an automaton, I said. Annabeth smiled. Turns out most of the statues in the city are automatons. Dallas planted them here just in case he needed an army. To attack Olympus or defend it? Annabeth shrugged. Neither one. That was Plan 23. He could activate one statue and it would start activating its brethren all over the city until there was an army. It's dangerous, though. You know how unpredictable automatons are? Uh-huh, I said. We had our share of bad experiences with them. You're seriously thinking about activating it? I have Daedalus' notes, she said. I think I can. Ah, here we are. Here we go. She pressed the tip of Seward's boot, and a statue stood up. Its quill and paper ready. What's he gonna do? I muttered. Take a memo? Shh, Annabeth said. Hello, William. Bill, I suggested. Bill, oh, shut up, Annabeth told me. The statue tilted his head, looking at us with his blank metal eyes. Annabeth cleared her throat. Hello, Governor Seward. Command sequence, Daedalus 23. Defend Manhattan. Begin activation. Seward jumped off his pedestal. He hit the ground so hard his shoes cracked the sidewalk. Then he went clanking off east toward the east. He's probably going to wake up Confucius, Annabeth guessed. What? Another statue on division. The point is, they'll keep waking each other up until they're all activated. And then, hopefully, they'll defend Manhattan. Do you think do they know that they're not the enemy? That we're not the enemy? I think so. That's reassuring. I thought about all the bronze statues in the parks, plazas, and buildings of New York. There had to be hundreds, maybe thousands. Then a ball of green light exploded in the evening sky. Greek fire somewhere over the East River. We have to hurry, I said. We ran for the Vespa. We parked outside Battery Park at the lower tip of Manhattan. where the Hudson and East rivers came together and emptied into the bay. Wait here, I told Annabeth. Percy, you shouldn't go alone. Well, unless you can breathe underwater, she sighed. You are so annoying sometimes. Like when I'm right, trust me, I'll be fine. I've got the curse of Achilles now. I'll all invincible and stuff. Annabeth didn't look convinced. Just be careful. I don't want anything to happen to you. I mean, because we need you for the battle. I grinned, back in a flash. I clambered down the shoreline and waded into the water. Just for a just for you non-sea god types out there, don't go swimming in New York Harbor. You may not be it may not be as filthy as it was in my mom's day, but the water is still probably going to make you grow a third eye or have mutant children when you grow up. I dove into the murk and sank to the bottom. I tried to find the spot where the two rivers' currents seemed equal, where they met to form the bay. I figured that was the best place to get their attention. Hey, I shouted in my best underwater voice. The sound echoed in the darkness. I heard you guys are so polluted, you're embarrassed to show your faces. Is that true? A cold current rippled through the bay, churning up plumes of garbage and silt. I heard the East River is more toxic, I continued, but the Hudson smells worse. Or is it the other way around? The water shimmered. Something powerful and angry was watching me now. I could sense its presence, or maybe two presences. I was afraid I miscalculated with the insults. What if they just blasted me without showing themselves? But these were New York river gods. I figured their instinct would be get in my face. Sure enough, two giant forms appeared in front of me. At first, they were dark with brown columns of silt, denser than water around them. Then they grew legs, arms, and scowling faces. The creature on the left looked disturbingly like a telekine. His face was wolfish. His body was vaguely like a seal's, sleek black with flipper hands and feet. His eyes glowed radiation green. The dude on the right was more humanoid. He was dressed in rags with seaweed and a chainmail coat made of bottle caps and old plastic six-pack holders. His face was blotchy with algae, and his beard was overgrown. His deep blue eyes burned with anger. The seal, who had to be the god of the East River, said, "Are you trying to get yourself killed, kid? Or are you just extra stupid?" The bearded spirit in the Hudson scoffed. "You're the expert on stupid, East." "Watch it, Hudson," East growled. "Stay on your side of the island and mind your business." "Or what? You'll throw another garbage barge at me?" They floated toward each other, ready to fight. "Hold it," I yelled. "We got a bigger problem." "The kid's right," East snarled. Let's both kill him, and then we'll fight each other." "Sounds good," Hudson said. And before I could protest, 1,000 scraps of surged off the bottom and flew straight at me from both directions. Broken glass, rocks, cans, tires. I was expecting it though. The water in front of me thickened into a shield. The debris bounced off harmlessly. Only one piece got through, a big chunk of glass that hit my chest and probably would have killed me, but it shattered against my skin. The two river gods stared at me. "Son of Poseidon?" East asked. I nodded. "Took a dip in the Styx?" Hudson asked. "Yep." They both made disgusted sounds. "Well, that's just perfect," East said. "Now, how do we kill him?" "We could electrocute him," Hudson mused. "But if we could just find some jumper cables." "Listen to me," I said. "Kronos' army is invading Manhattan." "Don't you think we know that?" East asked. "I can feel his boats right now. They're almost across." "Yup," Hudson agreed. "I got some filthy monsters crossing my waters, too." "So stop them," I said. "Drown them, sink their boats." "Why should we?" Hudson grumbled. "We've got to invade, so they invade Olympus. What do we care?" "Because I can pay you." I took out the sand dollar my father had given me for my birthday. The river god's eyes widened. It's mine, he said. Give it here, kid. I promise none of the Kronos scum will get through, are getting across the East River. Forget that, Hudson said. That sand dollar is mine, unless you want me to let all those ships across the Hudson. We'll compromise. I broke the sand dollar in half. A ripple of clean, fresh water spread out from the break as if the pollution in the bay had been dissolved. You each get half. In exchange, you keep all of Kronos' forces away from Manhattan. Oh, man, Hudson whimpered, reaching out for the sand dollar. It's been so long since I was clean. The power of Poseidon, East River murmured. He's a jerk, but he sure knows how to sweep pollution away. They looked at each other, then spoke as one. It's a deal. I have them each. I gave them each half of the sand dollar, and they held it reverently. Ah, the invaders. The invaders, I prompted. Excuse me. East flickered his hand. They just got sunk. Hudson snapped his fingers. Bunch of hellhounds just took a dive. Thank you, I said. Stay clean. As I rose from toward the surface, East called out, "Hey, kid, anytime you got a sand dollar to spend, come back, assuming you live." Curse of Achilles, Hudson snorted. They always think that'll save them, don't they? If he only knew, East agreed. They both laughed, dissolving into the water. Back on the shore, Annabeth was talking on her cell phone, but she hung up as soon as she saw me. She looked pretty shaken. It worked, I told her. The rivers are safe. Good, she said, because we got other problems. Michael Yule just called. Another army is marching over the Williamsburg Bridge. The Apollo cabin needs help. And Percy, the monster leading the enemy. It's the Minotaur.